So this is kind of a special video because in this video, it's actually going to be a field report of the entire weekend in one because this weekend I attended a boot camp. Now, if you guys are big into the social scene and improving your social skills, then you probably know what a boot camp is. And for those who aren't as big in the scene and don't know what boot camps are, that's fine too. But essentially, you go, you have a coach come watch you as you're out interacting with people and give you feedback, right? So not just, watching a video and learning technique or even listening in and learning from the instructors, which there is a bit of that, but like direct observation and feedback. And sometimes coaching to, say this, do this, adjust this thing like real time as you're out there kind of working on things. So overall, like bottom line up front, I would recommend it. However, in talking with some of the other people, the experience varies depending on who you go on a boot camp with. So there were some folks who had gone on previous boot camps with other coaches, and I got to hear a bit about their experiences as well. So I'm definitely pleased with the coach I ended up going with. I don't know if I should like shout him out here or what. I don't know if he really wants wants that sort of thing. I think maybe for his own video I'll send him one. Leave him a review and he can do that with what he wants. But yeah, overall I would definitely recommend. So it like having where I'm at now, I feel like I've been working on my social skills consistently for about almost a year and a half. Really kind of more longer than that, but with like a more direct focus, like this being a goal and like a primary focus of mine, I'd say about a year and a half. And I feel like that showed. I feel like the instructor could tell that some kind of beginner mistakes I wasn't making, some hesitations, and just walking up talking to people. I wasn't as hesitant as maybe some other previous students, and so I think that was definitely appreciated. So, even if you aren't getting coaching, the work that you're putting in is going to pay off. Like it shows up. There was a guy on the boot camp who kind of hadn't gone out before. This is the first time really going out to some of these environments, like a real nightclub setting, and I think that shows. I think when you have experience in that, let's call it high energy environment, then you can kind of come in feeling a bit more comfortable as to someone who's seeing the flashing lights, loud music, people bumping into them, and everything else, and drunk folks for the first time. So. First lesson is, whether you're getting the coaching or not, as long as you're still being intentional about trying to improve, trying to put in the work, you will improve and you will get better and it will show. That being said, highly recommend in the field coaching with someone who's been there and helped others, as a profession or with some experience. Someone who's experienced themselves that can help you figure out things that you wouldn't normally see, right? So, I'm going into the approaches into the interactions, feeling like, okay, I have some experience, I have a good idea of what I'm doing, and I've been, kind of studying this. I've been reading books, watching videos, listening to podcasts. So I've picked up some tips and techniques and strategies and other things, and I'm going to employ those, right? I'm going to go in with a plan, go in prepared, taking advantage of the expertise of others that I've had the opportunity to learn from. So I kind of went in thinking like, okay, I'm doing things the right way. But as is natural, you approach different people, some like you more, some like you less. In particular, there was this one instance where I approached these couple girls and started talking to them, and I can see immediately like one of them is like put off, and I can tell like the expression looks like a little bit startled, like startled and put back. And so I'm in my mind thinking like, okay, this, wasn't, this approach, this initial attempt at starting a conversation wasn't quite well received. But I'm still trying to see, sometimes you just surprise people walking up. But I could tell, finish what I'm saying takes, 3-4 seconds. And by the end of that 3-4 seconds, I feel like, okay, hasn't quite warmed up as yet. Still a little bit standoffish. So going to the next thing, and although the response starts to soften a little bit, I can still see there's like this, like she was startled, she was surprised. And again, I'm in my mind thinking, okay, well, I tried my best. It didn't work with this one, but I'm not quite sure what I could have done differently to get a different response. Because I felt like, hey, I'm coming in bringing good energy, good vibes, and hey, some people like that and appreciate it. Some people will be surprised that you're talking to them, whatever. So maybe it wasn't a me thing. Maybe it was just hey, one of the times you approach somebody and try and talk to them and they're not ready to be talked to or whatever. But the coach, having overseen the interaction, gave me some feedback, and it was a thing where like I could see from the reaction that like potentially I had done something wrong, but I didn't know what I could have done differently to get a better reaction. And he was able to point out, this is what you did and this is how it was received. And with that like direct cause and effect that he pointed out, I knew not just for that interaction what I could have done differently, but into the future how I can put a slight tweak on my kind of going forward and starting conversations going forward, right? It's like it was a small thing, but it saves, like, it would have taken, I feel like, months for me to figure out that on my own, and I would have had to be quite intentional about it. So it would have, again, very early on in the interaction, so I would have had to have played around with approaching people with different energies in different ways for at least months, potentially years, to have tried enough different things, seen the reactions over a wide enough kind of population of people to understand, okay, this is what I was doing wrong. So literally, I feel like that one little piece of advice, a minute interaction between me approaching the set of two girls, trying to talk to them, and not being as well received, and then me kind of recognizing that, going off doing my own thing, and then the coach kind of giving me some feedback afterwards. Like, it literally, that could have potentially saved me years of going out talking to people and doing it the wrong way. So not just that direct feedback, but a more clear, well-defined roadmap of how to get from starting a conversation to making plans for later, or leaving to, go to somewhere else later, like from starting a conversation to real connection. Much more of a roadmap, plan, guidelines for how to be successful in that and what it should look like. And kind of in hearing that approach, and on top of the other things I've heard, it's like things crystallized and solidified and like sunk in a way that they hadn't before. It was like a real kind of, it happened over the course of the weekend, but a real kind of moment of clarity of, okay, now I have additional context and all these different things that I've heard, all these different tips, all these different strategies and plans. Like, I could see how with this roadmap, these other things could be fit in and could be seen as like alternative steps, but also what I'm being presented with right now is tested, tried and true. It is a strategy that I can implement, I can follow, and will get me results. Of course, I still have to, and anyone who wants to get good at this will still have to put in the work themselves, right? You can watch a video of someone talking about social skills, you can listen to their podcast, but that doesn't automatically transfer into your own social skills. And particularly if you want to get like very good, you want to do extraordinary things that, by definition, ordinary people can't or don't or won't do, then you will have to put in the work and it will take time for sure. But putting in the work with a clear roadmap, with clear guidelines, with more feedback based on what your particular strengths and weaknesses are, it's so much of a head start that I would, again, highly recommend it to anyone. So anyone that really wants to improve their social skills. So that is a big thing, of course. That would be, I guess, if anything, I would say that's the downside, but it's not really a downside in my mind, is that if you go on one of these programs, you will be pushed to talk to more people. That's just part of it, right? Like, and that should kind of be, in my mind, that should kind of be what you want, because if you're paying this money to get feedback and get better at your social skills, then the more reps that you're putting in and interacting with different people, the more quickly you'll get there. And so of course there's always a thing of don't beat yourself up for not doing more. That can be a hammer that some people will use to beat themselves up, that should be doing more. And like, the reality is you could always be doing more. You could be sleeping less and blah blah blah, and go, take a time machine and go back in time. But the reality is, like, it starts now. Wherever you're at, like, it starts now. And you can only try and keep pushing yourself out of your comfort zone so that you keep growing, right? Over time, you get more used to talking to more people the more that you do it. And so the sooner that you start pushing yourself, I feel like the sooner you'll start seeing more results. I feel like, I will, like, looking back, I would say that is the one thing that I would change, or give the piece of advice that I would give to, like, the younger version of myself, or the version of myself that's earlier on in this journey, is push yourself that little bit harder. I feel like I have been pushing myself this the entire time, and I'm proud of how I've been kind of sticking with it. At the same time, I also realized, like, pushing myself that little bit more, I do feel like would have gotten me a little bit farther along, and gotten me to where I am now a little bit more quickly. So the actual weekend, just the format, I know there probably will be some questions about this, is kind of, they they give you a skeleton schedule, like a little bit ahead of time, like a couple days beforehand, right? It's not a thing where, like, you'll know weeks and months in advance. So this is the exact what we're going to be doing, where we're going to be staying, where we're going to be visiting. Like, no, it's not that organized. At least not the one I went to, and that's fine. I'm an adult. I can, get my own lodgings and accommodations and all that stuff. But again, something to keep in mind. But so they kind of give you a time frame. So, like, hey, we're gonna meet at 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. the first night, and then second night 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. and then the last day, Sunday, we're gonna meet noon to 5 p.m. or something like that. So then you'll get added to, like, a little messaging group, where you're all part of, like, a group chat, essentially. And then a little bit beforehand it'll say, hey, we're meeting at this location at this time, right? So then you'll know where to go. You'll get there. You guys will kind of have to do a little, it'll be like a little public place, so you can talk to people, get some reps in, and find the rest of the group. Once you do, you'll do some introductions. And again, this format can always change, but the one I went on was like, hey, first night, we're not going to load you up with information. We're just going to kind of observe you. We're going to go out there, hit up the club. It was more like a bar, but we're going to go to some venue, and I'm going to observe you all. We may give you some feedback over the course of the night, but for the most part, we want to see where you're at, so that, when we do give you the feedback, we can, tell you about your strengths and weaknesses. So that was good. First night got some good feedback that, again, things that I didn't notice that I was kind of, essentially they were like mistakes, things that I was doing wrong that I didn't know I was doing wrong. And, like, I would say that is the thing about getting the coaching too, is, like, there's some things that are, like, stylistic. Like, hey, you can, take this strategy or this tack, or, and have, have your own flavor, your own swag. And then there are other things that are like, when you hear it from them, when you see it, when you get the feedback, it's like, oh no, that is a mistake. Like, this isn't the style thing. This is just in this instance, I am doing this wrong, and I'm glad to know that I'm doing it wrong so that I can correct it. So, good experience. Talking to some different people. Some interactions went well. That is one thing too, though, is that like, it's with this boot camp, it was maybe me and like maybe like 8 or 9 other people. And so again, when we are going out to like a bar, that sort of environment, we're going out to socialize. Like, that's one thing with a lot of people. Maybe they're with their friends, or there to get a drink after at the end of the week to relax a little bit. It was like we're going out to meet people and rock the boat a little bit. And so a lot of the longer interactions I was in, someone else from the group would maybe come and join, right? So, and that's fine. That's it ended up leading to like some really funny interactions with like, let's say I'm talking, for one instance, I was talking to this group of 2 girls. So I come in, say something initially, and then very quickly after, another guy comes in with me, right? And so he and I were kind of being each other's wingmans at that time. So we start talking to the 2 of them. I feel like is connecting more with one. So I'm there still talking to the friend and all, but after like connecting and trying to, I feel like see the extent of the connection, he was eventually like, okay, I'm gonna go and do something else. So he leaves. I'm talking to the 2 of them for a little bit. Then someone else from the group sees me, sees me, the one guy talking to 2 girls, and is like, all right, well, I'm gonna join in as well. So he like slides in, comes in. So then I'm talking to like the other one that I wasn't talking to before, and observing them, and it's just there were plenty of times like that where it ended up leading to some funny stuff happening. So, and that particular one that I was describing, that was like one of the better experiences, like more fun groups of the night. There was another group though that I was talking to a little bit earlier in the night. Again, talking to me and these 2 women, these 2 lawyers, right? And again, someone from the group sees that, joins in. So he comes in. And he comes in and he is doing well. The experienced guy, so he's kind of like the one that's more talkative in their interaction, right? He's kind of, telling the stories, and the other folks are kind of listening and laughing and all. Whereas I was kind of playing that role before. Fun, all good. Gets to a point where he ends up like commenting on one of the, well, so first, like, I don't even hear the comment, right? But I see one of the women's like, her expression change, and she's like, tell me more, right? But it wasn't like interested, tell me more. It was like what did you say? Like, tell me more. And so I was, again, I didn't hear what was said, but I like, again, I'd been a little quieter, kind of listening in, but then I like pipe up, because I'm like, oh shit, this is a red flag, this is a warning sign. And so I'm like, hey, I see these leading questions coming in, but he like doesn't pick up on the hint, and or thinks that like, oh, maybe she took offense to what I said, but I said what I said, so just for her to take it, and I'm gonna repeat it. He like doubles down instead of like taking a step back. And I don't even know if it was like a double down, because again, I couldn't quite hear it as much as it was like I'm not taking a step back. At the very least, I'm repeating what I said before. And like they pretty much immediately, it was like, Okay, thank you all. Nice meeting you. Goodbye now. Goodbye now. So, so it was, again, that was funny to me. I'd been talking with like another group right beside, so no big deal. I immediately turned off, started talking to another group. I think he, wandered off a little bit. Didn't kind of come out the next day. So I don't know if that really got to him or what, but yeah, again, funny experiences. Funny experiences. Like I know I've spoken about this in other videos, but there's definitely power in going out with a group. Second night out, we went to a different place. I'd say like kind of a little more upscale in terms of the way people were dressed, but overall people were more dressed like more fashionably than in DC in terms of like looking like they spent money on what they were wearing. Like you saw a lot of people in furs and that sort of stuff. More like the long sport coats, that sort of stuff for the guys. But anyway, second night, we're at this place. Again, going out, being social, talking to people. So a few different stories. The one that I was gonna start with, power of going out with a group, right? A group of guys who like are all working together to improve their social skills. I'm talking to different people over the course of the night. The night ends, like the bar like kind of gets to be dead after a little while. Like people, the volume of people in there definitely is diminished. Say about half of what it was, maybe 30 minutes before, and there's definitely like noticeably more guys in the venue than women. So, still, okay, we're there, trying to make the most of it, going around talking to people, but fewer opportunities to talk to different people I haven't met before, and just less of like the environment that's really conducive to going and meeting a lot of different people quickly. So it's also getting later at night, I'm gonna say like 3:30. And the place is gonna be closing before too long. So end up, heading out, whatever, and then I start walking back home, walking back to my hotel. Get a message in the group chat from one of the other people there, and they're like, "Hey, this this girl in the pink sweater was asking about Jamal by name." And so I'd see that and I'm like, "Oh shit." And so I like start to turn and walk back, and then another person from the group calls me up and is like, "Yeah, these group of girls you were talking to earlier were asking about you. They're looking for you now. They're kind of outside the outside the bar or the club, still here." So I'm like, "Oh shit." I literally break into like a light jog to like go back and catch up, and then end up talking to him for a little bit. Again, funny interaction. Uh, Good time, funny interaction. But again, that was the power of being in the group. I was like gone. I would have not seen them again, not talked to them again, not thought about it again. But the guys being there, being around, knowing who Jamal is, listening for me, looking out for me, telling me about it, hitting me up, calling me, it helped and it felt good. So appreciate it, guys. I think the other like a funny interaction for me in that night was I was talking. So like I was there, I'd met this kind of other guy out, so I'd been talking to him for a little while. He was cool. Initially, yeah, it was cool, and I'd been kind of hanging out with him for a little while. He wasn't part of like the group of people there, who'd paid for the boot camp, but he seemed like a pretty social, cool guy, and so impromptu wingman, if you want to even call it that. Him and I talking to each other, then other people come up, we also start talking to them, blah 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 blah. So I'm talking to him again, and he then starts talking with this group at the table, and I start talking with a different guy who was from the boot camp. right? And as we kind of like split a little bit, he's on the left, he turns left, I'm on the right, I turn right. So, we're kind of facing a little away from each other. I see a guy and a girl, walk by. And so I say, hello to them. I think I made a comment about like trying to squeeze through because it's kind of tight. So just the offhanded comment to these people walking by. The girl from the two of them like immediately like picks up, starts engaging me in conversation. So I'm talking to her, and she very soon says, "Oh, I'm out with my boyfriend," which whatever. I keep still talking, and it's like in that interaction more than I feel like any other one, I can tell the things I said that spiked emotions because I could see like her reaction. And it was like she was talking to me, but like her boyfriend was on her side, but like faced the other direction. And I could see like when there was like a spike in emotions or something, she would like squeeze his arm or move her hand on his arm or something. And it was like I didn't think she was doing this like to console him of like because he was having a conversation with someone else anyway. So I don't think he was really listening in at all. I don't think he was really that worried. I think he was just like, whatever. She's talking to someone. I'm talking to my buddy. Whatever. But it was just funny to me. It was like you can see the signs and read them and see when someone's more interested, more engaged. But like never had they been so clear. And it was like funny because maybe you would think like, okay, it was going, she's an attractive young woman. It was going well. You're talking to an attractive young woman, spiking emotions. Then maybe you would want her touching your arm or your chest instead of touching the chest of her boyfriend or arm of her boyfriend or whatever. And like, I get it, but it was just funny to me. Like maybe it was because I like had that more third person sort of perspective, not like me in the moment, me of like this is just a weird situation sort of thing, or I'm not really this isn't really a chance. Maybe because my view was like this isn't really a chance of me and her working, then I saw it differently and could just read it a little bit more clearly or whatever, since I disqualified it from the beginning. But or since you said that, I was like, I'm not gonna if you're here with your boyfriend, you're telling me you have a boyfriend, like I'll keep talking to you, I'll talk to you both, but nothing's gonna happen between you and me, and not the three of us either. So but yeah, just another like funny interaction. um yeah, and yeah, like when you get good socially, um people, I feel like people respond to you. I was in Starbucks in line, ended up striking up a conversation with this guy, and he ended up like paying for part of my stuff. Um, and so it was like normally, before I started working on my social skills, I wouldn't have said anything. And even then, I was like, hey, I'm no thanks, I'll pay for it. After he paid for it, took out cash to give him to pay him back. So it wasn't like hey, you get good social skills and now people are gonna buy you stuff, and you have this evil power that you can use to like bend the world to your will. Not really coming at it from that angle, but just more of like different things happen like that wouldn't happen before. Not just from me starting a little random conversation with somebody. So it's just another example of how your life changes and is a little bit different when you are confident and comfortable in social situations. And I do want to make the distinction there, and not say when you're an extrovert or when you've spent a lot of time getting good at this. Like I feel like it's a spectrum, of course. Like there's levels to this. That's one thing, but also you can recognize the value of social skills. You can recognize how your life will be different with more friends or more romantic options or more business opportunities, and still be an introvert and still have your own interests and your core kind of comfort or core personality, right? It doesn't, working on your social skills, going out in these different environments doesn't need to change who you are, and it won't change who you are. I feel like some people think like to learn this and do, it feels uncomfortable when I'm, working on my social skills, when I'm stretching myself, putting myself out there, and I feel like I'm having to act in a way that isn't authentic, that isn't really me. The like shift in perspective that I think I would encourage others to consider is that this isn't changing you. This is like you learning a second language or a foreign language, right? It may, if you've only known and spoken English your whole life, when you learn a new language and have to make different sounds and noises and movements with your mouth, it will feel uncomfortable and odd, and you will have like an accent that native speakers don't have. But as you continue to practice and learn and work on it, it becomes more ingrained in your mind. Your pronunciation can get more clear and concise. The lag between you thinking of something and being able to communicate it in the way that you want is cut down, and you can speak in that foreign language, that second language, or you can go back to your normal way of being. And so it's not you changing who you are, it's you having additional option, right? Of I can put on these clothes, be this person today, or I can go and be that person over there. And there are benefits to being that person over there, that person who can be social, at a networking event, or, around a group of new people, or, just out in public, right? Feeling comfortable in different situations. And so that is the thing, like with all this, from the guy who it was his first time going out to the coach himself who's been helping people, improve their skills for 15 to 20 years now. With everyone, it's not like you will still have your own personality. And it will be uncomfortable when you're starting this out, and you will feel like I'm having to, some people describe feeling like I'm having to become a different person. I think the perspective that I would look at it as, and how I think of it myself, is like I am working to evolve into a better version of me, right? Like, same as if I'm going to the gym. It's maybe weird and uncomfortable to, sit on, to lay down and do a bench press with, a bunch of weight on, but doing it repeatedly, because I feel like it will help me improve and evolve into someone in better shape, someone more like the person I want to become. And so it's the same thing with these social skills, right? These things that you're doing, these exercises, these, routines, going out and meeting more people, putting yourself out there in social situations. It is like, exercise for your social muscles. And it's not you changing who you are. It's you evolving into a better version of yourself. And like, you still have all the memories, all the personality, all the, quirks of the old you. It's just you can choose whether to lean into the old you, or whether to lean into these new things that you've learned, this new approach in terms of how you present yourself, or whatever else. But like, the real you is always in there, and the real you is you wherever you go. You can wear different clothes, but you're still the same person. So I would consider it that way. If you're feeling like this is uncomfortable, this isn't me, I would urge you to rethink it and say, like, you are working to make yourself better, and you are intentionally stretching yourself, and that is the discomfort that you're feeling. But it is through that discomfort, through that stretching yourself, through putting yourself in these different situations, that you will get better, and that you'll get to the place that you want to be. So again, overall, enjoyed the time in the boot camp. Great meeting the guys. Grateful for the feedback from the coach, and I'm glad to be able to bring this to you all, so that hopefully some of the things that I've shared here or in other videos can help you cut down in your learning curve and become a Riz Lord.